Hey everybody, this is Playing the Role. I'm Roger. Today we're talking a little bit more about monster stats. So I just wanted to cover a couple different things here other than the boss fights. So I don't want to go over that yet. I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but we're going to save another video to do to handle the boss fights and stuff like that. But for now, I just want to talk about some of the larger dragons and things like Cthulhu or any of the deities or demigods, anything like that. I really think that you should be cautious when you're trying to stat those out. I try to not stat them out at all, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. So here's my kind of just thinking on that, right? And there's games like Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that I think handle it really well, where you're not just like you can't actually fight Cthulhu, but what you're doing is you're fighting off the people that are trying to bring him into the world, or cause a ritual to close the gate or whatever, and you're only having to deal with a partial manifestation or something like that. And that's fine. Stat that stuff up. But I don't think players should ever be able to go toe-to-toe with the gods or anything like that. Now, maybe in your game you want your players to get to that point where they're fighting gods and become gods themselves, and that's fine. But it's not really something that I want to get into. So yeah, if you want to have a god that comes down and has a mortal shell that's killable, and like that's fine. And you can stat that, and then they can, the players can kill that, and then it sort of dissipates or whatever, and the god is still out there, and you just killed his mortal representative, if you will. Even like some of the younger dragons or whatever, I'm okay with, but it never sat quite well with me when you'd have the issue of like this dragon that's terrorizing a town, and the people would go to the PCs, or there'd be a sign or whatever, hey, 10,000 gold to whoever kills the dragon, and then the PCs just, hey, yeah, we put on our gear, and we just march over into the cave that's generally too small for a dragon to actually fly around in, and they just get up to it, and they just beat on it until it's dead, right? That's it. So there's something to be said about dragon encounters, right? Dragons should be out in the open or huge caves and stuff like that, unless it's something really specific. A buddy of mine was telling me one time about a dragon that was in this cave and basically grew into this cave, and then he couldn't get out because he was just too big, right? So I mean, things like that are fine, right? But they shouldn't be the norm. Like a dragon should be in this huge thing, and it should be really fearsome, and it should not stay in one place, even if it's floating 100 feet in the air. I mean, it should be constantly swooping around and breathing fire or whatever kind of dragon's breath it has, and trying to take the players out that way, and then leave and come back later or whatever. And it should be hunting them instead of landing in front of them and just trying to go toe to toe with a dozen or half a dozen PCs. So there's that. But now I've always enjoyed certain aspects where there would be some sort of timeline of things that you would have to get done in order to destroy a dragon. And I say dragon, and I mean any kind of mythical beast. This came up in conversation a few days ago. I was talking to someone about the Tarrasque, right? Which is supposed to be, there's only supposed to be one of in the world, and or at least that's what the lore used to be. I don't know if that's still true, but it's like one of them in the world, and they wake up like every 100 years or something like that, and like terrorize things, and it's this like huge, like unstoppable beast. And this guy was telling me about a friend that built a character that can take down the Tarrasque in one round. And to me, that was just like utter nonsense. Like something like that shouldn't be statted out, right? Like you should have to be able to try and lure it somewhere, and then do something to put it back to sleep, or something, get spell components or something like that. So So something like that, like I would never think to use, like, actually have stats on paper, right? Like the player should be able to just hit it and it just doesn't do any damage, right? So so part of this, there should be a journey that the players have to go on in order to overcome the difficulty. So an example is I'm running Curse of Strahd currently, and the players are going after Strahd now. And for those of you that has read it, you know that Strahd basically is imbued by this this power called Vampire, and basically the players know that they can just walk in and they can destroy Strahd outright, and they can just kill him, But if that happens, then he's just brought back to life by this vampire entity. So I have it set up so that not only do they need to deal with Strahd as a vampire and take care of his body and do the things that they need to do, with that, and put him back in the coffin, stake, and all of that stuff. But they also need to perform a ritual to re-imprison this vampire entity back in an amber prison while it's going to try and, rip the players apart and disrupt the ritual. And I don't plan on fully statting this thing out. I'm not going to give it hit points or anything like that because it's going to be unkillable. Like, they just need to deal with the effects of it and complete the ritual, and that's pretty much that. So, and I think when you do that with a villain, it gives the players more catharsis. When they finally get it, they're like, yeah, instead of just, march in, roll the dice, smash the thing to death, and that's it. Like, you can't solve all these problems that way. Another great example from Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, actually, is Smaug. Smaug. I'm going to call him Smaug. You guys can correct me. I'm terrible with the names, right? But so I think Smaug is a great villain, right? But so think about it for a second, right? How many hit points does Smaug have? What do you think? What do you think his armor class is? So what do you think? He's probably got, 800 hit points? 1,000 hit points? And, there's probably stats out there for him, right? I didn't bother to look, but in his AC is probably 25, 30, something crazy, right? I don't think so. I think that Smaug has 1 hit point and his armor class is 2 because the build up to destroying him and the whole thing is, here's this dragon, he's destroying shit. You can't just walk in there. Like, what kind of movie would it be, right? If all the dwarves just like walked in to the mountain and here's the dragon and he wakes up and they just beat on him with their axes and they chop him up into pieces, right? Like, no, like, they can't do that. They know they can't do that. They can't hurt him. So basically, he's got 1 hit point, but he's immune to everything, right? Except this one thing, right? The MacGuffin, right? So they got to get this one black arrow that's designed to kill him, and they need to, basically launch it at him. And they get that all set up, and of course that gets kind of, destroyed and stuff, and they end up coming up with an interesting way of doing it. But that's it, right? Like, if you give him 1 hit point and then make him immune to everything except for this one thing, then the players basically, they have to go get the thing, right? And you want him to have 1 hit point because it's all role playing at that point. Like, you don't want to say, okay, it's got 20 hit points or whatever, 10 hit points, even 3 hit points, right? It's got 3 hit points, and then your archer, gets this arrow after they've spent, weeks or months or whatever trying to find these components to make this thing or whatever it is that kills them, right? In this case with Smaug, it's the arrow, but like they get it and then they just launch it at him. Now what if they roll? What if his armor class is even 10, right? And the player rolls a 2, and he's got a +8. No, that's a 10. So what if he rolls? What if he misses? Right? What if his AC is 11 and he rolls a 10? Um, like, what happens? Does he miss? Does the arrow just go flying off into the destruction, and now you got to go look for it? Sure, maybe that's the thing you got to do. What if he hits? What if he hits and Smaug has 8 hit points, and you roll damage, and you roll 5 damage? Like, now what? If this arrow is the only thing that can hurt him, and they already shot him with it, and it's stuck inside of him, like, what do they got to do? Like, so I think thematically, you just say that, okay, there's this thing that they got to do. I mean, in the case of Smaug, it's, they have to get this arrow, and it has to be shot through this specific area and all that stuff. Now, if you want to say, okay, great, he's got, the scales missing there, and that'll this arrow shot right there, that'll kill him, and then give him an AC of 24 and 200 hit points, and say that, okay, they gotta hit him with that, and then he falls down, and they have to run up to him and smash him. Like, fine, if that's the thing that your players want to do and all that, like, I think that's great. But I think it turned out in the movie fine. I mean, I thought it seemed pretty cool, right? He shot him with the arrow, and he fell, and all that. Spoilers. By the way, the movie's like a decade old now, so it's probably safe to talk about it, right? But so anyway, I think that's an interesting concept to consider when you have these like unbeatable enemies. Like, this thing can only be killed by a weapon that is forged in the depths of hell and then cooled in the pools of the seventh heaven, or something like that, so that the players have to go and they have to find maybe this meteorite or something, and then bring it to this forge and have it forged into a sword, and then they have to quench it, and they have to go into the talk to some celestial thing and convince them, or to cool the thing off, and then they can imbue it with some magical property, and then they can then this thing will, when they stab the dragon with it, it'll kill it, or whatever the beast, the Tarask or anything like that. And if you put a time limit on these things, and you say, okay, when they're leaving this town that's getting attacked every day, the mayor, the people can tell them, hey, this dragon attacks every day. Every morning at dawn, it comes in and it breathes fire all over the town, and it destroys a chunk of the town. And the town can only last another 5 days or 10 days or 20, whatever it is, right? Like, just a number, right, that you come up with. And then now if you say, okay, it's 5 days, right? So this town is going to be destroyed in 5 days, and then the dragon moves on to this other town. You just that's a time limit now. Now, the players, they have to go and do the thing. And if they don't do it in time, everybody's, going to die in this town, like, every day that they take. So now they're not, going at a leisurely pace and, stopping to rest and everything else. It's like they're saying, okay, we're down maybe at half hit points or something, and we're wounded, and the wizard doesn't have all their spells, but we have to keep going, because if we rest so the wizard can get this spell back, then another 24 people are going to die, and that's awful, right? So it keeps them on a clock, and it's like, yeah, you can dilly-dally if you want, but like, more people are going to die, right? And maybe people know this, and they know that, like, oh my God, that, like, if we go back and like get this thing and say, hey, we showed up, and it's like, okay, well, the dragon already destroyed the town, like there's no point anymore. Like, I mean, that's bad, right? So maybe so I think getting a MacGuffin or something like that, I think is a great idea. Have them scatter to go and get things, and then, at the point when it comes to kill it, if you say, hey, this sword's going to kill this thing, right? Like, it shouldn't be some long, drawn-out thing, at least in my opinion, right? Again, like the Smaug thing, right? Like, you just want to stab the thing, and then it's done. Like, maybe you have to hit him twice with it. Maybe it's the thing that'll hurt him, and you got to hit him 5 times with it, or whatever, and that's fine. But I wouldn't use a fully statted up thing. Figure out what the attacks are going to be, and just do that, and but you don't need hit points for something this big, and So basically, in summary, big monsters should either have no stats or like the bare minimum of stats. So no no AC, no hit points type of thing for like a god, or if something needs to be destroyed specifically with something, like then it should be, hey, it's got 1 hit point and you need this thing to kill it. So that's all I got. Sorry, I'm looking over there because that's where my notes are. But so that's that. If you guys like this video, please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you guys do in the place down there, and tell me that I'm wrong, or tell me what you do or what you like to do, and we'll talk about it again. I'll talk some more about doing some boss battles and things like that, with layer actions and stuff like that, and I'll let you know how I do that at some point here in the future. But that's all I got. Thanks. Have a good day.